Give a damn about a hater when I feel like it. Not today, not today, not today, not tomorrow. Get out my way.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome to Straight No Chaser. I'm your boy, the Bro-Kage, and captain of the Red Cloud Pirates, Petty Pat. And on today's show, I'm here to talk to you about the latest installment in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles franchise, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. Brought to you by a permanent teenager, as he says, Seth Rogen. And let me tell you, this movie was fantastic. I enjoyed every bit of this movie. The soundtrack, the cast, the story, everything. Everything about this movie was good. And the animations was god level. So this movie was amazing. This movie has broken several records in the theaters. I can't recite most of these records off the top of my head, so I'm gonna look them up here in a bit. But anyways, let's get right into it. So let me go through the cast of this movie. This cast is freaking nuts. It's insane how much star power is in this movie. First off, I love that Seth Rogen cast actual teenagers to play the Turtles and April O'Neil. Secondly, this cast is nuts. So as Donatello, we have Micah Abbey. I don't know a lot of the teenagers who are playing the Turtles, but except for one, Brady Noon, who plays Raphael, only because he was in the Mighty Ducks series Next Level for Disney+. You got Nicholas Cantu playing Leonardo, and you got Shaman Brown Jr. playing Michelangelo, and Ayo Edeberry, I think is how you say her last name, playing April O'Neil. Now, that's just the base cast of Turtles and April. Now, let's get into more of the cast. You got Maya Rudolph playing Cynthia Outram, who was essentially the big bad for this, next to Superfly. You got John Cena playing Rocksteady, Seth Rogen voicing Bebop. You got Rose Byrne playing Leatherhead, Natasha, I don't know how to say this last name, I'm going to say Demetriou playing Wingnut. You got Giancarlo Esposito playing Baxter Stockman. Jackie Chan plays Splinter. Ice Cube plays Superfly, who is the main bad guy for this movie. Paul Rudd plays Mondo Gecko. Post Malone plays Ray Fillet. Hannibal Buress is Genghis Frog. Let me tell you, this cast is just nuts. So that's just so much of it. That's like a star. The star level for this cast was insane. Now, the plot of it itself, Superfly is the big bad for this. Essentially, he is trying to get revenge for who was his father, Baxter Stockman. They went away from the original where Baxter Stockman actually gets mutated into Superfly. In this movie, Baxter Stockman makes the mutants. So Superfly, Rocksteady and Bebop, Mondo Gecko, Ray Fillet, etc., he makes these mutants. These aren't people who get transformed into mutants like we're used to in any other adaptation of Ninja Turtles. The soundtrack for this was amazing. I enjoyed every bit of music in this. Ice Cube as Superfly making references to his music in the movie as a couple of his lines was amazing. Jackie Chan killed this as Splinter. Like, I was already hyped that he got cast as Splinter and already expected like top tier voice acting from him. He killed it as Splinter. He was hilarious. He fit the part very well, and I feel like the look they gave Splinter fit his voice very well as well. Man, I can't say enough good things about this movie. Let's see how much money this movie has made so far in the box office. This movie had an estimated budget of $70 million. In the US and Canada alone, I'm assuming as of today, it made $102,023,570. Opening weekend, this movie made $28,007,544. Gross worldwide, I'm assuming as of today, is $123,570. So this movie has done really well in the theaters, so much so that it is still in theaters. This movie only runs an hour and 40 minutes, and that's not including credits. So low key, I'd say this movie is more like an hour and 20 minutes if you take out the credits. Again, we got to see different sides of the Turtles. We got to see them as babies. Essentially, they had Splinter tell his whole backstory. This is a little bit of a different Splinter, where he's like, he hates humans. Like, he's kind of prejudiced towards humans because of how he was treated before he got mutated into basically a human rat. He basically hate humans on how he was treated as a regular rat before he got oozed. Like, humans would always try to essentially kill him because he was a rat. He's a rat in New York. So, I mean, like, he didn't understand that. He also teaches the Turtles that apparently the humans want to beat them up and milk them, which essentially is a being a running joke for the movie, and then essentially ends up happening to the Turtles in the movie. They get hooked up to what they call a milk machine. Which is a great how that all played out, because it was pretty much a running joke throughout the movie. As you can see in this movie, they did race swap April O'Neil, which, again, not an issue at all. I loved every second of it. Wasn't an issue. I don't think this is the first time April O'Neil has been race swapped, so it doesn't even really matter. I don't know why, but one of my favorite things about this movie was Post Malone as Ray Fillet. It was a very small part, but for what he did with it, it was hilarious. Like, essentially, he was just a singing fish, and that's all he wanted to do was sing. Superfly was essentially what he was. He was like, it was like a play on words, essentially. Like, it was like Superfly. You remember the old, like, gangster dude who was badass back in the day and had a couple movies, and it was like Superfly, like, oh, he's a big, strong fly, you know what I'm saying? Humanized fly. So it's kind of like a play on words, pretty dope. Basically, Superfly was trying to whole like plot in this entire movie was just trying to gather equipment, and he was essentially going to make everyone in New York like them. He was just going to mutate the entire city of New York because he got tired of how they were being treated as mutants. Like, he didn't understand why they were so hated and why people just shunned them all the time. So, and he hated what humans did to his father, Baxter Stockman. We did again get like different body types for the Turtles, which I will credit Michael Bay for. Michael Bay, even though his Ninja Turtles adaptations were not great, I will credit Michael Bay for introducing different body types for the Turtles, because I feel like without Michael Bay introducing like different body types, people wouldn't have taken that and started doing it in their own adaptations of movies. Like, look at Michael Bay's body types for the Turtles. Yes, they were way too tall. These Turtles in Michael Bay's movies were like 6'8". I don't know really how tall they were, but the body types were spot on with the Turtles' personalities. Like, Raphael was huge, jacked, muscular. Michelangelo was kind of chubby and fat, always eating. The jokester. Raphael had the skinny, kind of like beanpole body because he was just like a nerd. And Leonardo, being the leader, he kind of had like the regular not average body type, but more like lean. Like, he works out, but it's more lean. Like, he's cut, but it's lean. So I feel like you got that with the Turtles in this. Again, they all had different body types. They all looked different. And this isn't a dig at the old Ninja Turtles movies, not the original 3 movies, and especially not the 1987 Ninja Turtles cartoon show. I grew up with all of these. This is me just saying I like that people are now exploring differences with their personalities. Like, they're not just all the same. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like back then they all just loved pizza, and they all were kind of like shared the same personality. And, you know, I'm glad it changed a little bit, but that's all I'm saying. Not a dig at the older adaptations. I loved all of those. Well, okay, except the third movie. The third movie, anytime I want to do a Ninja Turtles marathon, I skip the third movie. I don't like the whole going back in time. I don't like that I can't remember if they recast Casey Jones. I think they did recast April for like the third time. The suits for the third movie were terrible. So I didn't really care for that third movie at all. animated one that came after that, TMNT, it was okay. Granted, I haven't seen it in a while, but enjoyed it. Like I said, the Michael Bay movies, I mean, they were where they were. There was a lot wrong with them, and that's all I'm going to say about them. But most of the cartoon adaptations I have enjoyed across the Ninja Turtles franchise. So anytime they do a new cartoon adaptation or animated adaptation, I love it. So that's why this movie, just like, they killed it. So, another thing I loved about this movie, Donatello was an anime head. So, like, there was a moment where April took them to the high school because I think they were just doing research on Superfly, and Donatello noticed there was an Attack on Titan drawing on one of the lockers. It was of Captain Levi, so he kind of freaked out and was like, "Yo, this person loves anime." So that kind of like roped me in, made me like Donatello a little more in this adaptation, because I'm an anime head, if you don't know, as you can see from some of the things behind me, possibly, maybe. Anyway, that was a cool little aspect. This essential movie was the Turtles wanting to be accepted by the human world. That's all it was. They wanted to essentially show Splinter that humans were all bad. They wanted to be accepted by humans. They wanted to go to high school. Essentially, they wanted to live normal lives. That's all they wanted to do. But again, you can't have a movie without a bad guy who essentially feels the exact same way as Splinter, but he goes about it in a lot different way. So Splinter sees that in Superfly and is like kind of towards the end starts to change his mind about humans and sees the error of his ways and being prejudiced towards humans, and not all humans are bad after meeting April and such. I'm giving this movie a solid 10 out of 10. Like, for real. Like, I can't wait for the sequel. Like, I haven't heard anything if a sequel's been greenlit. As you know, the Screen Actors Guild strike is still going. Again, like I said, and I think one or two videos ago, give these people what we want so they can go back to doing what they do best, entertaining us, the masses. They did give us like a setup for the sequel, I think. They teased Shredder. The one thing I want them to do, though, with this, and once they bring Shredder, you need to bring the Foot Clan back. And honestly, you need to make them robots like they were in the 1987 cartoon show. Like, make them robots. Don't make the Foot Clan like regular humans, cat burglars, just a gang of dudes just doing petty crimes. Like, I didn't like that. But also, one thing I would like to see going forward with this, doesn't have to be in the next movie, but I would like to see you introduce Krang and like the Technotrome and explore that a little bit. That would be sick. Like I said, I don't really have a ton of bad things to say about this movie, man. For me, this movie was like so good. Like, I immediately bought it as soon as it went digital. Like, I was actually watching it right before I made this video, not even gonna lie to you. So this movie was phenomenal. I will say this, Seth Rogen, if you want to give us, more adaptations of some of our old, childhood cartoons, maybe you want to explore Samurai Pizza Cats, maybe Biker Mice from Mars, maybe you even want to do a Street Sharks movie, would love to see a Street Sharks movie for those of you who remember Street Sharks. And I would like to see a adaptation of Double Dragon that's not terrible. Just saying. The Double Dragon movie that came out back in, I want to say, either early 90s or late 80s was hot garbage. I would love to see more of these turtles. Keep the same cast, obviously. The only thing, actually, I take that back. There's only one thing I will say, it's not even bad about the movie. I wish towards the end that some of the mutants stayed evil. Like, in the most adaptations of Ninja Turtles, Rocksteady and Bebop work for the Shredder. They're evil to the core. Like, there is no good in them. They kind of all turned and went good. I feel like the only ones who should have stayed good were maybe Ray Fillet, Mondo Gecko, and Leatherhead. Those are the only ones I feel like should have stayed good. But I feel like maybe in the next movie, since you tease Shredder, Rocksteady and Bebop will go back to their evil ways and they'll end up working for Shredder anyway. So who knows? That's just one of the things I figured I'd say about it. But other than that, that's something very small and minute. Who knows where they're going with this? Like I said, they could end up working for Shredder in the next movie and turning evil. I just didn't think they like how Superfly treated them, and like they didn't agree with Superfly's plan to begin with. They all just wanted the same thing as the Turtles, just to be accepted by the human world, and wanted to make people realize that like mutants aren't terrible, even though we look different. You know what I'm saying? So I enjoyed this movie thoroughly. Like I said, I'm giving it a solid 10 out of 10. Seth Rogen, thank you for making this movie. And yeah, as always, that's my time, motherfuckers. Keep it classy, motherfuckers. Deuces.